Ladies and gentlemen, it is time we talk about some special weapons. More specifically, we're going to be talking about the best fusion rifles to dominate PvE inside of Destiny 2. Previously on the series, we have done a lot of primary weapons, hand cannons, auto rifles, SMGs, bows, and most recently, pulse rifles. This video, we're doing our first special weapon class of this series with fusion rifles. And we do plan to get around to every single weapon class in the game. So go ahead and leave a comment down below on which weapon class you would like us to do next. And remember guys, if you ever want to get your games and their DLC for a cheap price, you make sure you head over to Instant Gaming, top link in the description, along with their free monthly game giveaway that they do. That'll be the second link at the top of the description. And we are going to start off in the Darkness Affinity of fusion rifles, Stranded Stasis. Since there are no kinetic fusion rifles in the game, there's no reason to even mention it. So, Stasis. For the Stasis section, I'm going to be mentioning two fusion rifles, one of which being an honorable mention, the other being the main one. This is going to come to nobody's surprise when I mention the Riptide from Season 17 from the Crucible, one of the most popular fusion rifles in the entire game. So why is the Riptide so popular? Well, first thing, it's a rapid fire frame, the most popular archetype of fusion rifles amongst the community. It's also pretty easy to access as you just need to get it through Crucible Ingrams, which you can go ahead and focus to code those bad boys over at Shacks to try your luck at getting your Riptide. Now, if I throw up this bad boys perk pool, you're going to see some pretty darn good options, okay? In the fourth column, your three main perks are going to be auto-loading holster, lead from gold, my goat, I love that perk, and then maybe field prep. Although out of all of them, the main most important two perks that people like to use are definitely auto-loading holster and lead from gold. And then in the fourth column, you have some other good options. So the main options that I would like to mention are going to be chill clip, frenzy, love frenzy, and vorpal weapon. Now, what makes this gun so very popular is the fact that it is the best chill clip fusion rifle solely because it is a rapid fire frame, meaning you can apply more chill clip procs more often. If you're using this thing in a damaged loadout, you could probably go with vorpal weapon, as that'll be more damage than just chill clip shatters. But for pure utility purposes, the Riptide is definitely the best. It's amazing against champions, as you can freeze and shatter to stun unstops, and you can slow to stun overloads. And if you want to take it to the next level, if you're standing in a well of radiance or you have the radiant solar buff, you can pierce anti-barrier shields, making this thing one of the best utility weapons in the entire game. It's great in any PvE content, low mans, grandmasters, day ones, you name it, the Riptide, it excels. And the honorable mention that I do have for the Stasis section is going to be the Deliverance, solely because it's a fusion rifle with bait and switch. It's not the best frame, but it does have bait and switch, and I have a soft spot for the Deliverance, so I wanted to mention it in this video. But overall, that Riptide takes the dub all day, every day. Now, we're going to be talking about the Strand fusion rifle choice here. Now, y'all got to bear with me because I don't have it, especially not one with the roll that I want, so I don't know what I'm going to use for the background gameplay, but we're going to talk about the Strand Fusion Rifle right now. The Strand Fusion Rifle that we're going to be talking about is going to be none other than the Nox Perennial 5. This was actually introduced this season, Season of the Witch. It is a high impact frame, which means it does have a slower charge time, but it's like a truck. And if we pull up this gun's perk pool, you're going to see that its main role is similar to another fusion rifle we're going to be talking about on this video. Actually, it's going to be similar to a couple fusion rifles that we're going to be talking about later in this video. But that role is Envious Assassin and Control Burst. It also does have lead from gold in the third column as well. I love lead from gold. But most people are definitely going to go for Envious and Control Burst. Real quick, Control Burst has got to be like one of the best, if not the best, fusion rifle perk. As what this newer perk does, this new perk was added in Season 21 last season, right? But the description reads as, landing every shot in a burst grants this weapon increased damage and reduced charge time for a short duration. And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Control Burst procs even when I don't hit a full burst, but that could just be me. But to go a little bit further in depth with Control Burst, upon scoring a hit with every bolt in the burst, it's going to grant you 20% increased damage and 10% decreased charge time. That is very helpful, especially on these high impact frame fusion rifles It's going to just allow you to shoot them quicker and do more damage. Part of the reason why I like control burst more than reservoir burst is because it's decreasing your charge time as well, which for a high impact, it greatly appreciates that. This gun's only competition is the Iron Banner adaptive frame fusion rifle, and that thing's best perk I think is like Vorpal Weapon or something like that. Nox Perennial dusts that thing all day every day because it has control burst. It does more damage at base. It's got a better damage perk. It's got everything that you would possibly want in a fusion rifle. The only thing is that some people do not like high impacts. Fair enough. But either way, the Nox Perennial 5 is definitely the best strand fusion rifle in the game, even if there is only 2 of them. Alright, so now we're going to move straight into the light affinity fusion rifles. We're going to start off with Void, mainly because Void fusion rifles, they're kind of weak right now. Truth be told, they're just kind of lacking. In fact, Void fusion rifles are lacking so bad that the only one that I can truly recommend to you guys is a ritual weapon, that being none other than the Null Composure. Now, this is a rapid fire frame fusion rifle that does have reservoir burst, and its other PvE perk is Feeding Frenzy. A rapid fire frame with reservoir burst is a pretty good start, but unfortunately, that's kind of where it ends. Because if you're using this thing in a damage loadout, you don't really have the best of reload perks, and after your first shot of reservoir burst, you're just going to be doing baseline fusion rifle damage. The good thing is, though, if you don't have the Null Composure, head your little happy ass over to the tower, to the good old kiosk, and go ahead and cop one. The Null Composure is definitely one of the better ritual weapons that we have seen. However, we definitely wish that this bad boy had something like Overflow, but because this gun came out a couple years ago, it was out way before we ever had Envious Assassin in the game. So we really wish this bad boy had Overflow. That would mean a lot of extra reservoir burst shots. It's okay though, because one weapon that I do want to mention to keep your eyes on, and whenever this raid does get their reprisal of its weapons, is the Zealot's Reward. That is the Garden of Salvation fusion rifle, and it is also a Void rapid fire frame. So who knows, man, they might give it Overflow, Envious Assassin, maybe some control burst or reservoir burst whenever they do reprise its perk pool and allow us to craft the Garden of Salvation weapons. Only time will tell, we'll have to wait and see, but for the time being, I gotta give the best Void fusion rifle to the Null Composure. No, it doesn't have that much competition. What are you going to use? Epicurean? That thing is mid. Alright, so for this next section, we're going to be talking about the ARC fusion rifles, and there's actually a decent amount of them to talk about. The first one that I want to mention is the Irritive Loop. This, of course, is the Neomuna fusion rifle. This is a rapid fire frame as well, and its main perk that you would want to roll on it would be Lead from Gold and Volt Shot, as this is the Volt Shot fusion rifle. Now, Jolt did get a nerf, which means Volt Shot also got a nerf as well. But if you want to get a form of Jolt on the boss, and you don't have one, this might be a decent option. It's also rapid fire, if I didn't mention that already. I mentioned that already, in case you didn't know. The second one that I want to mention is the GFORCE. This is the first fusion rifle in the game that had control burst. This is from the Last Wish raid. Of course, in Season 21, all the Last Wish weapons got the ability to become craftable. And that is also the season in which controlled burst was introduced to us. The GFORCE also has some pretty awesome perks in the third column as well that you can combine with controlled burst. The main options being Envious Assassin, Rewind Rounds, and Reconstruction. It's hard to go wrong with any of those 3 perks in the third column, as long as you go with Control Burst in the fourth column. The next fusion rifle that I want to mention is the Loaded Q, my boy. The Loaded Question from Season of the Deep also got a pretty nice revamp to its perk pool as well. This, of course, is a Nightfall weapon, so you can decrypt your Vanguard Engrams into Loaded Questions over at Zavala if you want to. This is a high impact frame. The Techian was an adaptive frame. My bad, should have mentioned that there. But the Loaded Question does have a slower charge time. But my guy, this thing's perk pool is so good. And I mean so good. If I throw it up on screen for you real quick. In the third column, you got the choices between Auto-Loading Holster, Overflow, and Envious Assassin. It also has Demo in the third column as well. And then in the fourth column, my boy, you got the choices between Control Burst, W perk, Reservoir Burst, and Frenzy. Not going to recommend Frenzy on the fusion rifle, but I like Frenzy, so I'm going to at least mention its name. But since this bad boy does have access to Control Burst, and Envious Assassin for that matter, and Overflow too, you have a pretty strong hard-hitting arc fusion rifle that can shoot a little bit quicker than its frame will allow it to. And it also has Reservoir Burst in the fourth column, so you want to combine that with Envious Assassin or Overflow, you'll get yourself a really decent amount of reservoir burst shots. However, overflow and control burst and envious and control burst are also really, really good options. If you are a fan of high impacts, or you can get over the hump of using a high impact, because I know just some people really don't like high impacts, then you'll find yourself you have a very, very strong fusion rifle in the loaded question. Now, there is one more arc fusion rifle that I really feel like I should mention, and that is because it has a very unique role specific to it and only it. I am actually referring to the Midas Reckoning King's Fall fusion rifle. This is also a high impact frame, but the reason that I want to mention this fusion rifle is because it has surrounded in the fourth column, which will net you a 40% damage buff. And if it's enhanced, you'll actually get a 47% damage buff with enhanced surrounded being procced. And then in the third column, this is the only fusion rifle I'm ever going to recommend this on, but it does have cornered. Cornered grants 15% decreased charge time while within 15 meters of 2 or more enemies. Meaning, if you are ever going to use a fusion rifle in which you are surrounded by a lot of enemies, or at least some, this might be the fusion rifle to go for, because you're going to have access to cornered to shorten up your charge time for your high impact fusion rifle, and you're going to have a really, really fat damage buff with surrounded. Since both of these perks activate when you have enemies within a certain radius, it actually makes it a pretty strong option in certain niche scenarios. I definitely have to at least mention what the Midas Reckoning is capable of. But hey, in case you didn't know that, hey, now you do. And then last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be, of course, talking about the Sola fusion rifles. We have two of which we are going to be talking about. The first one should come as a surprise to nobody, as this is the classic, coded, OG, Cartesian coordinate, the great, your Solar rapid fire frame fusion rifle. The only perks on this Solar rapid fire frame fusion rifle for PvE are going to be lead from gold and Vorpal weapon. You could also maybe try high impact reserves, but Vorpal is definitely what you're looking for in the fourth column, and lead from gold is the only perk you are looking for in the third column. The Cartesian coordinate is most infamously known for Banshee selling the S plus roll of it back in December of 2021, almost 2 years ago. Banshee sold the Cartesian coordinate with Vorpal, lead from gold, accelerated coils, and a charge time masterwork, which allowed everybody to pick up one of the best fusion rifles in the game with its best possible selection of perks and masterwork during a fusion rifle season with the likes of particle reconstruction. Pretty crazy how even to this day we still have not gotten a better Solar rapid fire frame fusion rifle than this Cartesian coordinate with Vorpal. Now you can still get one of these, however it is beyond difficult to get the one with the roll that you need. So let's talk about a different Solar fusion rifle that anybody can get right now, as long as you have Season of the Witch. That is because the other Solar fusion rifle that we have to talk about is none other than the Eremite from Season of the Witch. This seasonal Solar fusion rifle is a high impact frame, and of course you can craft it because it is a seasonal weapon. But the perks on the Eremite that you're going to want to look out for when crafting it in the third column is definitely going to be Envious Assassin or lead from gold, but you probably want to go for Envious Assassin if I'm being real with you. And then in the fourth column, you have the option between Reservoir Burst and Control Burst. Me personally, the roll that I use on my Eremite is Envious Assassin and Control Burst. If you are on tractor cannon duty, this is a great fusion rifle to use with Envious and Controlled. You could dump out some pretty decent damage with those two perks. Maybe toss in a damage super. You'll be able to do some decent damage. And since there's not much competition between the Eremite and the Cartesian along the lines of Solar fusion rifles, the Eremite's going to stand out as a strong option for quite some time. So if you're looking for a great Solar fusion rifle and you don't have that Cartesian coordinates roll, go ahead, craft yourself an Eremite. But both of these two Solar fusion rifles are definitely the best Solar fusion rifles in the game. If you have both the Cartesian coordinate with the roll and the Eremite, Hey man, you got the best of both worlds, and shout outs to you, homie. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be the best fusion rifles to dominate PvE with. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the list down below, along with your favorite fusion rifle in general. Remember, we are going to be doing every single weapon class in the game for this series, so go ahead and comment down below which weapon class you would want to see next. Remember to hit up Instant Gaming, top 2 links in the description if you guys ever want to get your games and the DLC for a cheaper price. But that is going to about wrap up the video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. You guys be safe out there. Consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one.